Hi, my name is Zach. I'm the CEO and founder of CoinTimeCount.com or Hyperion. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about how to handle your questions for the pit count or any survey. So first, you'll want to go to this questions tab on the left side, and you can see all of your forms that are created for you automatically when you create an account. So you have pit count interview one page, which is just a variant, the volunteer registration form, if you have a sophisticated plan, that's useful, and the pit count observation form. So we'll start by just giving you a sense of what you can do. So there's the title and subtitle here, and there's also a different one for each page. And you can just sort of, scroll up and down to see the questions on a particular page. You can click here to go to the other pages and see what all exist. You can also use this drop down to do the same thing. If you want to learn more about a question, there isn't honestly that much to know, but if you click on it and then go to properties, you can see the name, which is also kind of the ID of the question, and the title. And you can see this title is editable, right? So for this question in particular, we oftentimes see a change in the way it works. That's why this is called initials or name, because typically it can be something else. So for example, what is your first and last name? And you can also, as you probably saw, you can just click it to edit it too. You can also reorder questions pretty easily, just like that. And one thing to keep in mind is that these question numbers are dynamic. So if you ever have questions about this and want to talk to me about it, it's probably better not to use the question number, because one of the features is the ability to show and hide questions based on the answers to other questions. So I'll show you an example right here. You can click Test Survey to test it out. And now imagine that where I spent last night, I'm going to say a jail, hospital, or treatment program. That's going to make this question appear. Did you stay there less than 30 days? Yes. And this follow-up question appears, right? So now this is question 4. If I say park and I say no, next, this is question 6. But in another world where I just do this, it's question 3. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Generally speaking, this is a useful tab, this test survey. You can get a sense of, specifically, it's pretty useful for survey logic, which is how I controlled showing and hiding the question just there. So for the existing questions, they're pretty locked down, the questions that come out of the box. You can change the title, but that's basically it. If you want to change the answers, the way that they're worded, you can contact me and I can look into it on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes it's fine. But generally speaking, they're locked down. And they're locked down because the answers to these questions drive things like analytics. They control how the app works in a lot of situations. We have all these built-in filters, and they let you do things like filter based on information about the submission. And they let you see, for example, who would fall into a parenting youth household. But we won't know that, obviously, if we don't know their age. In the past, we allowed people to totally customize their surveys. But the problem with that is that you lose access to all that information. It's no longer reliable, because if someone deletes a question and creates a new one and gives it a different name, now we've just kind of lost that info. But there is an option if you do want to totally customize survey. We'll talk about that in a little bit. It is important to note, though, that you can add your own questions, and those questions can be totally customized. So one common question we get, for example, is, in addition to how old you are, sometimes people want to know date of birth. So we might want to ask, what is your date of birth? And then under properties, now you see, in addition to being able to change the title, we can do things like make it a date question, we can make it required, and that kind of thing. To give another example, if we want to ask sort of a silly question, like what's your favorite month? Go to properties, we can now edit these answers. So say January, let's just only give them 2 options. And you can see these updated. And if you want to do something like delete it, you can just click this delete button and it'll go away. But obviously for these, you can't do that. So that's like most of what you'll be doing. You can also mess with the survey logic. You can do a few things with this. The main thing I see people use is making certain questions visible. You'll see all of these out of the box. The biggest one is if someone is 18 or older, we'll ask them a bunch of follow-up questions. But you can add your own logic here. So if you have one question that you want to add and you want to only ask another question, if the answer to the first question matches a particular value, you can set all that up with survey logic. We also have translation. So if you want to have the survey presented in like multiple languages and give the volunteer the choice language to pick, then you can do that. You just select the language on the left here. So let's say we do Spanish. And then unfortunately, you do have to provide translations for everything. If you want to do like Spanish in particular, let me know and I can probably help because other organizations have already done Spanish. This gives you the option of going down that route if you want to. The survey forms automatically save, so you don't have to worry about losing your work. One thing I'll note is that let's say you create a survey. So I'm going to create the survey, point time count. I'm going to go through the whole process, let's say. I'm going to select one of the survey forms. And so this has a code, right? So volunteers could start using it today. But now, let's say I go in and I change the survey form and I add a new question. They are not going to see this question. And that's on purpose because it means that you can do something like create a pit count, have it be going smoothly, and then you can come in here and you can start editing the form for next year. If you do want to do that, so let's say you create the pit count and then you want to add this new question, you just go back to the survey. Then you go to the questions tab here, you select the one you want to update, and then you click save, and that will bring it up to date. One other thing I'll mention before we move on is this last special question that you'll see, where it says complete the following information for each other person in the household. So you can add questions to this, just like any other question, but it definitely works differently. So we're just going to go there to show you what it looks like. So this is what it actually looks like for the volunteer. And when they click add new, it creates all of these questions. And then the idea is they just keep clicking add new for each member of the household past the head of household. And then they fill them all out. And then when they're done, they click complete. And when the data is exported, they'll actually all be considered a different line item on the spreadsheet, but that's how that works. The last thing I'll talk about is let's say you want to do a pit count, but you don't want to use our questions. I would be careful before you make that choice because you lose out on a lot of analytics and everything, but you can do it if you want. And the way you do it is you click this plus here and you say start from scratch. You can also basically copy a form, and that's just also an option that's different. So if you wanted to do something like keep a pit count form the same, make a copy and then start editing that copy, you can just do that by say use existing and then select the copy. But in this example, we're going to start from scratch. We're going to get this new form, and then it's not going to have any questions at all. And we can add a bunch of questions. And the idea is you can use this for things like outreach, which just have totally different questions. But you can also use it for the pit count. So if you have like a pit count custom questions, let's just call it that. And if I go home, new survey, the point is you have to select other survey. And it's going to be limited, right? You're not going to have access to a lot of the same information. But if you want to use Hyperion for the ability to like have everything work offline, get location data, export everything, you can still do that. You just won't have access to all the analytics. So that's everything. I hope that answered any questions you have about editing the survey forms and how they work. If you have any other questions, feel free to send me an email at zach@hyperiondata.io. Thanks for watching.